and welcome to the Aussie Game Podcast for another week. We're here to talk all things Australian football, aren't we, Muppa?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Chief. What another action-packed round we've got tonight. We also, Chief, I want to say a special mention to an end of an era for Optus Sport that has closed after 9 incredible years. Optus Sport has officially switched off, and we're truly grateful for all the programs and the data and the theatre that they provided for all football fans of all different leagues that they had. So end of an era for Optus Sports, Chief, but onward to Stan, and we'll see how their program goes. And also, too, Chief, I've got a question for you coming up later. What Aussie youngsters that we have in the English Premier League, will they get an opportunity to start this year or be involved with their club? I've got a few names for you. I'm going to put you to the test. So,
sounds interesting, mate. I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. And also, too, Chief, what a week ahead. We have the Matildas under 23s on Thursday and the young Matildas under 20s kicking off their tournaments overseas in crucial qualifiers and crucial tournaments. And also the under 16s of going into camp. Obviously, we announced that last week. So their program's coming up in a few weeks, but all happening for the Matildas. And then, well, what a wrap. We have the Asia Cup draw, and we'll talk about that as we break it down. And then, obviously, for the men, 14 players in the Scottish Premier League started their campaign as of last night and tonight's games as well. 14 Aussies in action this year in the Scottish Premier League, just behind the championship that we quoted on, 17 Aussie players over in the championship, which starts next week. And then we've got 6 Aussies in League One that kicked off last night and commencing the season. So the season is upon us, Chief, and I cannot wait.
Potentially 18 in the championship, more on that one a little bit later, but it's certainly a league that we're very favourable of young Aussie players. All right, mate, let's get into it. So Women's Asian Cup draw was held on Tuesday night at Town Hall, and the Matildas drew Korea Republic, the Philippines, and Iran. So, look, I probably look at that group and go, well, pot 2 was always going to be pretty tricky, and pot 3 and pot 4, which ended up being Philippines and Iran, I would expect us to get through those games fairly comfortably. But what did you make of the Matildas draw?
Look, a lot of people said it was a hard draw, but I don't think it's hard at all.
I agree. I agree.
I don't know where that's come from. Like, we had Korea Republic out here, and we played probably I reckon some young stars, some up and comers, and mixed in with some more experienced players. And I thought we beat them quite comfortable, but they were competitive, South Korea, don't get me wrong. But at home, I think, wow. And I think that game's in Sydney too, so that'll be a massive crowd.
Yep.
I think we'll dominate the Philippines. That we're going to obviously kick off with the Philippines in Perth. So exciting times for Perth hosting the opening game of the Matildas. But yeah, I don't really fear them either. And Iran just qualified. So congratulations to Iran. They just qualified in the last group stage again. So they're a building side. But again, I think we'll take them on in the Gold Coast. I'm excited. I don't think this draw really phases me whatsoever. I think we'll top the group, and I think we'll put ourselves on path to the finals in Sydney if we top our group there, and hopefully we can just run in Sydney all the way, and get some massive crowds as we head towards the final and hopefully the win. What do you think on these teams?
Oh, look, I think anyone who we drew out of pot 2 potentially a little bit tricky, but on our day we should definitely be able to beat them. And pot 3 and pot 4 teams shouldn't have posed us any problems whatsoever. So I think we'll be absolutely fine with the group. And look, if we are to top the group, which we should expect to do, we're on a path to play more than likely Japan in that semi-final. So that's going to be the big challenge on whether we can get through that one and then push on to the final. But I think certainly getting out of the group and then making our way to that semi-final, I think shouldn't pose too many issues if we're on our game.
Yeah, Korea's highest rank at 21. So, that we play them last. So obviously that could be the group decider. You're right about whether we end up on that path with Japan, but I think as you've seen in the World Cup, how we got through and progress in the crowd and the support behind them, I reckon it'll be packed out, sold out. Pre-sale was on a few weeks ago, general public the previous week. So I think the stadiums will be full, and I think Australian football fans have got a lot to enjoy. I think this is a fantastic opportunity in this group to just get it done, and onwards and upwards for the Matildas. It's going to be exciting times.
Yep.
What's your best starting 11, Chief, in the Asia Cup? What are you thinking team wise? How we open up?
Well, I think Micah and Arnold in goals, depending on form and depending on what Montemurro is going to want. Back four kind of picks themselves. Carpenter, Catley, Hunt, and Kennedy, I would say. Cooney Cross in the six, I would say, and then depends on who plays next to her, probably like a Heatley or a Wheeler. And then fingers crossed, we got Mary Fowler back in the 10, play her through the middle, and then Razzo on one side, Ford on the other, and a fit Sam Kerr up front. That would be the ideal starting 11, and dependent on Kerr and Fowler obviously getting back to full fitness.
Yeah, Heatley just made the move to Roma. We're tipping they'll be in that six or that centre back role potentially. We've seen a bit of her in the friendlies. I think she's got great potential. Hopefully that pushes what we discussed a few weeks ago around Mary Fowler and Cooney Cross, where they sit a bit higher up the pitch in Joe's formation. So exciting times, home ground advantage, as you said. Can the Matildas win it, Chief?
Yeah, look, I noted down three reasons for why I think they could win it. So I looked back at their starting 11 when they got knocked out by Korea Republic last Asian Cup, and I think there's some significant upgrades on some of the positions. So Tegan Micah and Mackenzie Arnold will be picked, and we had Lydia Williams in there last time. Claire Hunt would come in for Claire Polkinghorn. Cooney Cross would come in for Van Egmond. I still think Van Egmond has a part to play through the tournament. Her experience will be very, very valuable throughout the tournament, but I think Cooney Cross would start in front of her. Potentially Winnie Heatley for Claire Wheeler, but look, Claire Wheeler's and obviously a good pick as well. And then Hayley Razzo would come in for Kaya Simon. And not to forget that Mary Fowler was only 19 when we played in the last Asian Cup. So very promising young talent at that time, but she's certainly developed her game from that point onwards. My second point was the home ground advantage, as you pointed to last time. Look at that groundswell that we had for the World Cup last time. And if we can build that momentum into that semi-final against more than likely Japan, I think that's going to be a massive advantage for us. And then if we are to get through to the final, packed out Homebush playing against probably if all the favourites win through, it's probably going to be North Korea that win through on the other side. But I think that's a huge advantage for us. And I think, like thinking about it back about Tony Gustafsson's reign and looking at what Joe Montemurro is trying to implement with the current Matildas group, I think being more positive, it's going to provide that energy. And I think it suits our players a bit more too to play a bit more on that front foot. And certainly against some of the weaker teams in our group, if we can start to get some confidence and then build that into the back end of the tournament. So they're my three reasons why I think the Matildas can go on and win the Asian Cup next year.
Yeah, 12-team tournament. So I think obviously not like the World Cup where we had more teams, but so an opportunity, I think, too, in the first three games to rotate a bit and see what we've got to save some legs. As you said, Sam Kerr back in training now, who's been out for 18 months. That's exciting signs for all Australians. And Mary Fowler recovering well. So I love the fact around Mary Fowler was only 19. I think if we can get her up to some sort of fitness, in March, I think we're going to be looking sharp. I think we've got much more depth this tournament, and I
Yeah,
think,
I do agree with that too.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think Joe's probably has brought them on well in those last six friendlies that we've seen, and exposed them against different nations and different continents, which will only help our football even more. So I think exciting times for the Matildas. It'll be interesting to see what friendlies they can run into, obviously at home or away, leading into that tournament. Because right in the start of March 1st, the Matildas' first game, I'm so super excited to see how we develop over the next probably key 6 months where players have got to be playing. And I think what a window also too for the 20s, 23s that are getting a lot of games at the moment, which is fantastic, and the emerging 16s that are coming up later in the month to have a look at what's coming through the ranks, because we did talk about Millie Borton last week about some exciting talent that's on Arsenal's books. It's an Australian young Matilda.
Yeah, you mentioned there Sam Kerr being back to training, which is amazing to see, obviously, after being out for so long. But someone who has had a short spell out, but looks like Mary Fowler, or 7 News anyway, reporting that Mary Fowler is on target to return by November, which is huge. If that is to happen, that gives her good kind of 4 months to get prepped, get some game time in her legs, and be prepared for that Asian Cup. So look at what a difference a fit Kerr and Fowler would make to our Asian Cup hopes.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot of the Matildas where they're based at the moment, based in good clubs. I think most of the girls have found a good foundation, a good club. We're any news updates on Haley Russo, we'll have to keep an ear out for. But I think everyone's in the right space. I like the fact that Winnie went over to Roma, and you've got a few others there over in the right leagues. I think we're only going to push on, and lots of good A League there. Development. We see Melbourne City's obviously in Asian Champions Leagues as well, so they're going to get some really good competitive football, and we've seen a lot of young talent come out of there. So I think it's only looking up for the Matildas, and I think we'll take our rankings right up there after the Asia Cup, and hopefully when we bring home the trophy, Chief.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, so just a few of our Matildas that are on the move. So we mentioned last week Courtney Nevin leaving Leicester City. So she's joined Malmo in Sweden. So they're currently third in that league in the Champions League qualification spots, 1 point off first. So yeah, it'd be good to see Nevin get some game time over there in Malmo. And then Matilda's defender Jessica Nash, she's moved to US Sassuolo Calcio in the Serie A, so joins Chidiac over in the Serie A. So her first match is against the Serie A champions Juventus. So
Big one.
straight into some challenging times if she gets some game time. But yeah, as you said, good moves for our Matildas, and they just need to get some game time now. They've made some good moves, some good clubs, and yeah, they just need to get that competitive football in their legs, as I said.
There was a bit of news out of young Matilda's camp too, with young star Grace Kellermo. Obviously, got a shoulder injury, so she's actually had to pull out of young Matilda's. But congratulations to Alexis Collins, who's been called up in her place. So, a bit of news there for the young Matildas, who kick off their first game against in Tajikistan on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll wrap a little bit of the 16s, 20s, and 23s a little bit later, but fantastic to see so many of our younger Matildas playing in these tournaments and forming those connections. Let's move on, mate. There's a bit happening in the A Leagues. We're going to start with some pretty disappointing news where Perth Glory had their friendly against AC Milan and got absolutely hammered 9-0. It was a strong starting lineup for Perth Glory, with the caveat based on their squad. We know they were one of the worst teams in the A League last year, but it's just not a great look when they face up. And look, AC Milan is going to really mix it with most teams worldwide, but just to have that scoreline, really bad reflection on the A League, I thought.
Yeah, it's been hard for Perth for quite a while. 19,000 fans, though, Chief. Attended HBF Park, and obviously, not the result or competitiveness that they're probably looking for. But I think, with A-League out of season, AC Milan a superpower, the gap's obviously widening a lot more. And yeah, it's a shame for the poor Perth Glory fans. They deserve a little bit more, but hopefully their recruitment and some more players coming in might help their obviously campaign coming up. But yeah, look, 9-0's not pretty, is it?
No, I think for Perth, when Zulic was signed as their coach started last season, there was some hope there, and they did bring in some players, and then they brought some more players in January, and I thought there was a little bit more hope for them. And they've kind of cleared it out again now and brought in some other players, and maybe it's just taking some time for them to bed into the squad. But yeah, as you said, probably just not the greatest timing with the A League being out of season and obviously AC Milan ramping up and just just the talent of that squad coming up against one of the weaker A-League teams, so not ideal. On the other side of the country, Brisbane Roar, they've signed Oilers striker Justin Vidic on a 2-year deal. He scored, they had a friendly game against Auckland FC today. He scored in their 2-2 draw. And Michael Roos scored the other goal for them, with Jesse Randall and Liam Gillian scoring the goals for Auckland FC. And for the female team, the Young Matildas forward Daisy Brown has joined on a 2-year scholarship deal. So I think just going back to the men's briefly, not a bad result, albeit it being a friendly, a 2-2 draw against the premiers from last season in Auckland FC. And we mentioned a few weeks back about their lack of goal scoring, but then you've got two of their new recruits on the score sheet. So hopefully positive signs for Brisbane Roar fans.
Yeah, it hasn't been capped at under 23 level, but I do see that Timbidic just does has a bit of potential. And I think he'll get a lot of game time up there, Chief, which is the positive. So, again, like Perth, Brisbane hasn't had much success lately, so they didn't have a good year last year. So hopefully they're on the right track. What about downtown in Canberra United? What's happening? We've got some football news out of Canberra for Capital Football.
Yeah, it's big news, but potentially some worrying news kind of longer term. We'll see how it all plays out. So Canberra United released a statement this week saying Capital Football are delighted to announce that Canberra United will continue to play in the Ninja A-League for the 2025-26 season following an injection of funds from the ACT government. Funding has been allocated to the club from the ACT government to go towards the considerable running costs of operating a team in the Ninja A-League, and having been backed by the Capital Football Board, the team will take its place in the competition for the forthcoming campaign. Now, that was kind of up in the air, and it was last season as well. And I made this point to someone during the week that it just can't be a season-by-season proposition for Canberra United. We know that there's plenty of talk about bringing in a men's team, and that's kind of it's been on and off again, but not happening for next season. But these are some quotes from the Capital Football CEO, Samantha Farah, as well. We strongly reiterate that this will be the final season that Capital Football will be running Canberra United FC. As stated previously, the growth of the team, the competition, and the associated financial commitments has become too large for a member federation to adequately manage to the professional standards that these players deserve. So, I mean, Capital Football propping up the A-League women's team is not ideal. It's kind of like Football New South Wales propping up Sydney FC. Like that's the equivalent as far as I can understand. And you just don't want that to happen. And we want Canberra United women's team to keep pushing on. They have been one of the great stories of the A-League women's competition, and we really want that men's team to come in as well. It'd be great for that region. It'll balance out the A-League men's competition with an even amount of teams, so no bye. We'd really like that to happen, but it's not going to happen through Capital Football, as the statement said. So they need to sort something out.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge for Canberra, isn't it? Especially without a men's team there in conjunction to try to build a football club. Look, there's time at least. Yeah, everyone's aware that they're obviously not supporting next year, so it gives people an opportunity to invest over the next 12 months. Not the ideal situation, as you rightly say. I'd be this Australian football obviously needs to work hard with the local business people up there, because obviously the last thing we want is a foundation of clubs leaving A-League. It's a concern. So hopefully, look, the Asian Women's Cup's coming up. Might get some vibe, might get some potential bidders, might lift the profile, and hopefully Australian football and the women's football can sort this one out. So these players, these clubs, these fans deserve better up there. And look, my heart goes out for stories like this, but one door shuts, one window may open, Chief. So we'll have to watch this space on who jumps on board. Congratulations and thank you to the government that are actually making this work this year. Without that support, they wouldn't be there. So congratulations for the government, and hopefully, as I said, local businesses can jump on board next year and support the women of Canberra, because I've got no doubt that they'd want a pathway up there, Chief. It's a big city, so it needs it.
Yeah, it's produced plenty of our Socceroos and Matildas of the past. So yeah, definitely a good breeding ground. And yeah, let's hope that that comes to fruition. And yeah, they have a long-term future. Canberra United, both the women's and the men's team. Let's look at the Central Coast Mariners. Bianca Galich has left Sydney. Has left the Mariners this week to join Sydney FC. No relation to Daniela Galich, but obviously with Jess Nash also moving on as well. And they've got some work to do. And of course, don't forget that Emily Husband, their manager from last season, is part of the Matilda setup now. Still no rivals for the men's team, which look is very very concerning. And hopefully, there's some news on that front very soon. Let's touch on Adelaide United. Stefan Mork left on loan during the week to a club in Vietnam. So yeah, interesting one for Mork. His loan will run through to the end of the 2025-26 season, and it includes an option for the Vietnamese club to buy. So they've lost one there. Dylan Prius is also reportedly understood to be being looked at by a German club. Sees they're flying right back. And then Archie Goodwin's popped up in the news again. Charlotte FC have reportedly improved their offer for him. So yeah, interesting times for Adelaide United. Lots going out the door, not so many in the door.
We reported on this last week, Chief. What do you think, Archie Goodwin? Should he go? Should he stay? What do you think?
I think he should stay. But look, as we said last week, if you're a young kid, but as I said, he last season was his first season injury free and lots of goals. If he could just stick around, have another great season, those offers will open up. Like what was Bodic's amount of offers during the offseason? Something like 16 clubs are after him.
Yeah,
Um,
massive.
this is like one MLS club. There might be more, but this is one club, so you don't really have the option. We don't know what his ambitions are, but I think at 19, be 20 by the end of next season, and then you opens up, has a look, sees what's out there. So, or he might be 20 now, so 21 next season. But yeah, still plenty of time to go over and carve out a career for yourself in Europe. But that would be what I would like, but not sure what he's thinking.
Ball's in Adelaide's court, Chief. 27, 28, he's got a contract too. So, yeah, no wonder they're playing hardball. So, be interesting to see where that
They don't
plays out.
they don't need to do anything. Like they've got Jovanovic as a second striker there. If they wanted to release Goodwin and not necessarily spend the money, but why not have two good young strikers? Jovanovic is going to go to the under 20 World Cup more than likely, so they're going to have to cover for that. So interesting times at Adelaide.
What else in Adelaide news, Chief? You got any more?
Yeah, a couple of youngsters have signed some scholarship contracts, so just wanted to congratulate Joey Gariccio, Tiros, Phyllis, and Vinko Stanisic. So yeah, they've come through the South Australian system. So well done to those boys. Sydney FC, the women's team, they've signed exciting young striker Sky Halmaric. So she's been scoring goals for fun in the NPL competition. So yeah, really good pickup for Sydney FC. Was spoken about them as a club, but yeah, for their women's team, they didn't meet expectations last season, so they'll certainly be looking to develop. And Sophia Fante, Claire Corbett, and Willa Pearson also signed 1-year contracts along with that announcement for Halmaric. So they're certainly looking to change a few things up. You mentioned Sophia Fante last week as well as part of those Matildas groups. But yeah, good to see Sydney FC, looking to right some of those wrongs from last season.
Yeah, definitely gone young and definitely look exciting. And I think that's the way to go for women's football. They did obviously have a lot of emerging Matildas and emerging stars in that this squad. They're starting to build it. I like it, and it's going to be exciting to watch. And good luck to all those girls that signed on. What about Wellington, Chief? Let's go across the ocean. What do we got?
Yeah, Bev Priestman, she's been announced as the women's coach for next season, which is a huge statement signing for the Wellington Phoenix. Priestman had that ban from the Olympics when she was the Canadian national team coach. So, but she certainly brings a lot of pedigree, and it shows a lot of ambition from Wellington Phoenix to invest in a coach such as her. And in the same week, Wellington have also signed football fern CJ Bott, who joins after 4 seasons in the WSL with Leicester City in their statement, saying they bring serious pedigree. So, yeah, another good solid signing for Wellington Phoenix, who are looking to build their women's program.
That's a pretty exciting statement, bringing in Bev, like former Canada national coach. What do you think of that appointment? That's pretty strong foundation. Like going after someone like that, pretty
That's
good
huge.
caliber.
Huge. It's been like I saw rumors about it a little while back, but wasn't sure whether it would come about. But no, I think it's absolutely huge. We don't often get already established managers coming into the A-League women's competition. It's more of your up and coming managers. So yeah, it's fantastic to see someone with such good pedigree come into the league, and I think it lifts the profile of the league, not just for Wellington Phoenix. So anything that's going to help us do that is going to be of benefit.
Yeah, and you've seen that already with the announcement. I know that a few of them were talking about the story previously when she was with Canada, but like, yeah, I think the profile's already been lifted, and that's a huge signing. So, well done to Wellington.
Yep. Just a little bit on MacArthur Bulls. They did have a good win in the Australia Cup during the week, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But they're reportedly, this has come from Korea Football News on X, but they're looking to bring in a striker. 34-year-old Ji Dong Won has reached an agreement, apparently, according to this one, but no official statement from MacArthur. So we'll see what happens there. They've got big Harry Sawyer up front playing for them, and the likes of Chris Economides. So it's not like they're exactly short, but they're probably looking maybe something a bit different to bring in. But I think they're going okay, MacArthur. So I'm not sure exactly what they're looking for, but interesting one coming out from MacArthur.
I was just going to point out the next point on the agenda. This has been heavily commentated on over the pre-season. One of the devastating piece of news that it just keeps getting worse over at Western United, with the multi-million-dollar loss highlights A-League's ongoing struggles. What's happening in this space?
Yeah, so I'm just going to read a few pieces from the article from Jack Snape from The Guardian. So, West United is hemorrhaging cash at a rate of close to $1 million every month, but as the A-Leagues pivot to focus on financial sustainability, officials are confident the competition's conga line of outgoing transfers is a positive sign for the local game. The Tarnate-based outfit reported a loss of almost $11 million for the 2023-24 financial year in accounts lodged to ASIC this week, following a deficit of more than $12 million for the preceding period. Liabilities exceeded assets by more than $55 million, underscoring the urgent need to conclude the deal announced in May to sell the club to the US-based Kaminsky Group and its local affiliate KAM Melbourne.
So, Chief, are KAM now in control of Western United?
No. That was announced in May, and it didn't look like there was going to be any issues with it going through, but we're now in August. It hasn't gone through, and now these reports keep coming out. In the Australia Cup during the week, Western United weren't able to field Ben Garuccio and Jaden Kucharski because they weren't able to register them. They've been signed but not registered. So, yeah, look, bit of a mess. And I think it's kind of one of those things where the whole arrangement over there at Tarneit needs to work. It kind of one feeds off the other. So yeah, it's just not happening. Look, hopefully once this deal goes through and it's all sorted out, that they'll be able to push ahead. But just as it currently sits at the moment, it just doesn't look good. So it needs to get sorted sooner rather than later.
Yes, Chief, for the Australian football and Western United, well, yeah, we wish you all the best. So, yeah, Western United, probably tough beginning to the probably A-League season, and to get some stability back. But hopefully, once it all comes to fruition, could be a potential powerhouse too. With so much untapped potential down there, isn't there, Chief? On community, logistics, stadium.
Oh,
It,
their
it,
academy's brilliant as well. Like
yeah,
there's just so much talent coming through. If they can sort themselves out, they're going to be fine. But they just probably need to get this part sorted first.
Yeah, well, we wish it the process, all the best, and hopefully we've got some better news to report on as obviously they're in a dire need of injection. All right, Chief, it's time for the Australia Cup round of 16 matchups and how they go. Let's look at the left side of the draw, South Melbourne versus Auckland. What's your tip, Chief? South Melbourne overcome early deficit. What's a spectacular bicycle kick to prevail 2-1? Auckland score within 30 seconds of their Australia Cup debut and were too good for the Gold Coast Knights.
Yeah, so I watched that South Melbourne game when we spoke about it before. You were saying how Chile would be down at South Hobart. It certainly looked that way when they were playing. But yeah, amazing bicycle kick from South Hobart to open the scoring, but South Melbourne just too strong in the end and got over the top. And then, yeah, Auckland absolutely hammered Gold Coast Knights. 30 seconds into their Australia Cup debut, they took care of the Gold Coast Knights. So another tricky one coming up in this matchup. You'd think that Auckland FC would probably have enough over South Melbourne. South Melbourne not going particularly well in the NPL Victoria competition, and they potentially going to have their sights set on preparing for that Australian Championship later in the year too. So I would probably tip Auckland to get through in this one.
Big crowd, Chief. South Melbourne, it'll be a massive night down there. Absolutely huge. So I'm tipping an upset, Chief. I'm tipping South Melbourne to overcome Auckland in a major upset to go into the round of 8 in the quarterfinals.
Cup set from Mopper.
Yep, cup set. That's the one for me. I've seen Apia knock over City, so South Melbourne at home to absolutely send their fans into an absolute rave.
I'm going to say Apia wasn't a cup set, but I'll get to that one in a second.
What the City's team was young, but hey, I know they're already in Asia. Is that debatable, or maybe for later on?
Let's look at the next game on that left-hand side. It's the Sydney United versus Sydney FC. So Sydney United scored the only goal against Northern Tigers to get through their match. Sydney FC also scored the only goal as they defeated Western United. Yeah, nice far post header from Matthias McAllister. Must have learned that from his old man. But yeah, beautiful ball from Joe Lolly, and he tucked it away. And as mentioned before, Western were unable to register Garuccio and Jaden Kucharski for that game. So I think Sydney FC be too strong for United in this one.
Yeah, and Sydney United, obviously in the championship that we've got coming up as well. That should get a really big crowd there. Sydney Derby, it should be pretty exciting. There's some big lineups, isn't it? Eh? It was a sensational one for Sydney teams. Get out there and watch that one. That'll be a cracker. What about Nunda Wadding, who went to obviously up in Darwin, Chiefs? Absolutely smashed them up there, Darwin Olympic. They got flogged 9-0. And this team's not even in the state league. They're in the league below, with striker Stuart Edgar claiming a hat-trick up there in Darwin. And obviously, if we look at their opponents, Wellington needed extra time and penalties to get past in the distance derby against Perth Glory, and the game which also included a significant delay due to lightning strike.
Yeah, that was a massively long game. Yeah, it's kind of two polar opposites of games. An absolute hammering for Nunawading against Darwin Olympic, and then Wellington having to go to extra time penalties and that lightning delay. So more travel for Wellington Phoenix. I think Wellington and Auckland need to play in Australia unless they actually draw each other. So they'll always be traveling. But
what's your tip?
I'm going to go the cup set here, actually. I'm not sure how invested Wellington Phoenix will be in this competition. Obviously, if they win it, they can't actually qualify for the Asian competition anyway. So I'm going to say they're going to pull out a less than strong team and maybe Nunawading with a big upset here.
And Nunawading is, from my knowledge, is 18 kilometres east of the Melbourne Sydney Business District. So there you go, for in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. So get out there, everyone. I think they're close to Box Hill and Ringwood out there. So good luck on that one for Chiefs Keith Cup upset. All right, Chief. We move on to St. Mark. This will be a hard one. This will be a big game as well. Heidelberg United. I bet they're stoked they're at home. Those Western Sydney Wanderers. Heidelberg managed a 2-0 win over Western Workers and was reasonably comfortable. But the Wanderers, they look pretty hot up there, getting some early goals. They were far too good for the Peninsula Power. Even the Peninsula Power sneaking in with a smaller pitch that game. They won 3-0 with two to Karev, who he's scored some great goals and good run in behind, and one to Barbarossa, who scored on debut.
Yeah.
What are you
No,
tipping this one? Heidelberg, big players. What are you thinking?
I'm tipping Heidelberg in this one. I think there are a lot of people's tip if any of the non-A League teams is going to win it, and will get to the right-hand side of the draw in a sec, but they're coming through the tougher side of the draw. But I think they could potentially knock off the Wanderers here, so I'm going to go for another cup set.
Wow. So Heidelberg are equal with Avondale in the state league on 55 points, Chief. They've only lost 3 times. So a very tough defence, only conceding 22 goals this year. But Western Chief, geez, they look good. They looked in the mood, mate. I think this might go into extra time, but I think Wanderers will get them in the end.
Okay. All right. So yeah, like wrapping up this side of the draw. So we're potentially going to have either a Sydney derby, or even though someone pointed out to me, there's already a Sydney derby in Sydney United and Sydney FC.
That's it.
Potentially a Western Sydney Wanderers and Sydney FC derby, or a New Zealand derby in the semi-final if all of those A-League teams get through. So we'll see what happens on this side of the draw. It's certainly the tougher if you look at where all the teams are playing. So let's jump across to the other side, the right-hand side of the draw. So Avondale FC versus RP Leichhardt. Avondale beat Sterling Macedonia. It was a 5-1 win in the end, but it was nil-all at halftime. So probably if you just read the scoreline in that one, doesn't give a full reflection of the game. RP Leichhardt got through, as you said, against Melbourne City 2-0. City had 4 players with A-League experience, an average age of 17.6, including Beckham Baker, who we spoke about last week, and 15-year-old Akeem Gerald, who became City's youngest ever player. Oliver Kalach, son of Zelko Kalach, in goal for Apia. He's got a similar height, a bit more meat on the bone than Spider. I mean, muscle, big boy, but yeah, not quite the wiry frame that Zelko had. But yeah, great. Jack Stewart was absolutely amazing for Apia in this game. But as I said, I don't think it was particularly a cup set. I know that NPL club versus the A-League champions, but when you look at that Melbourne City team, they held their own, that Melbourne City young group, particularly in the early goings of the game. But the experience just prevailed for RP Leichhardt.
Chief, it's a cup set, mate. It is a A-League team, and there's a state league team.
Is it an A-League team, or is it Melbourne City's NPL team?
On paper, A-League team, and I understand that they played a lot of youth, but obviously
A lot of
Melbourne...
youth, all youth,
all youth. And look, we all know Melbourne City is already in the Asian Champions League, so they, even if they won the competition, they can't play in both. So pretty much a pointless from a visionary point of view. So all it would have been pride. So let me just cut you off as I've just done. Avondale, top of the table in NPL 1. They just beat Heidelberg 2-1 yesterday. So Avondale are in fine form. There's the big state leaguers in RP Leichhardt, who are currently coming second, just off Spirit there in the NPL in New South Wales. So they're second, Leichhardt. It's the state cracker. What a game this is going to be. And another huge crowd should be this one. But yeah, both clubs a lot to play for, and a great opportunity for both clubs because one of them's going to be in the 8.
Yep. Who's your tip, mate?
You know what? Because look, I love RP Leichhardt, but Avondale at home, I think because they're at home gives them a very slight advantage. But this is going all the way, Chief. It's going to penalties.
Ooh. All right. I'm going up you Leichhardt. Maybe big Spider Junior will pull out some saves in the penalty shootout to get them through.
Oof, it's going all the way. This is going the distance. Mark my words.
All right, Brisbane City Olympic Kingsway. So Brisbane City left it late to beat Brisbane Olympic with goals in the 84th and 90 plus 6 minutes, but got through. Olympic Kingsway produced the big upset of this round, not the RPO Melbourne City one. So they beat Melbourne Victory 4-3 after extra time. Liam Boland scored a brace off the bench, extending his overall record to 15 goals in the Australia Cup. Bit of an Australia Cup specialist, Liam Boland. Yeah, what do you think about this one? Brisbane City, Olympic Kingsway.
Well, it's a long way to travel, isn't it, for the Kingsway boys? They're coming second, but Brisbane City are only coming fifth and struggling a little bit. 8 losses already this year. Yeah, I don't know about this one. This could be very interesting. Again, I have to lean towards. No, I was going to say Brisbane City, but no, I'm going for the boys in the West, Olympic Kingsway. We'll see how they go. I think Brisbane City's forms this year's been poor in the NPL in Queensland, so I'm going the Sandgropers Chief to get over Brisbane City. What are your thoughts?
I'm going City.
Oh, we're going against each other tonight.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
righto.
Right, Cooks Hill United versus Newcastle Jets. So this is a local derby for the boys up there in the Hunter. So yeah, Cooks Hill, they responded after conceding an early goal to Adelaide Croatia Raiders and led 3-1 before Raiders made it interesting but couldn't force extra time 3-2 in the end. The Jets conceded early as well, but they ended up beating Adelaide 2-1. Two nice goals from the Jets through Ben Gibson and the new boy up there, Alex Badalado. I got a feeling there's something about the Jets this year, not just for the Australia Cup,
Yes.
potentially the A-League. I like what they're building. I do.
They're my moving club, Chief, and we've spoken a lot about their transfers and Mark Milligan moving in. They've attracted some great talent. We love Ballardo, hey? He's a little star in the under
Oh, yeah.
20s, yeah, Asia Cup there. I know I keep talking about it, but he is another superstar. Great to see him score and play. Look, Cooksville United, gee, they've developed some talent over the time, but unfortunately in the northern New South Wales, they're eighth in the NPL. They're struggling. They've lost 11 times this year already. I think Newcastle United 5-0, Chief.
Ooh.
They'll smash them.
All right. All right. Last game on this side, Metro Stars, who we announced last week are joining the Australian Championship as winners of NPL South Australia, taking on the Macarthur Bulls. I thought the Bulls might have a bit more of a tough time against the Raiders, but they pretty comfortable in that one, 5-0 win, including a goal to Anthony Caceres. And for Metro Stars, again, I thought they might have a bit of a hangover after, not literally, but just a bit of a mental hangover about you know, after they qualified for the Australian Championship, but they were rampant against Canberra, Croatia with the 4-0 win. So yeah, two teams coming in some good form.
Mate, the Kings of SA, South Australia, they're flogging them over there, Chief. They've got a 13-point lead and sit very comfortable on top. And
They've
like you
only
said,
lost 2 games all year or something, all
mate,
season.
they're on fire. 47 goals, 16 against. They're good at both ends. And they're
Yeah.
going to beat the Macarthur Bulls, Chief. They're going to
Ooh.
bring a big crowd. I love Adelaide. They're developing such great talent over there and got a great pathway. The Metro Stars for me, too, Chief. The new championship boys to pull one over the Macarthur Bulls.
As much as I'd like to see them go through, I think the Bulls will get through. I think they're going to go all the way to the final, defending their title. So,
Wow. Wow, that's a big statement. Big statement.
that's the softer side of the draw. They're like, so anyway, that's a bit of a wrap up. So yeah, the next round starts very shortly in the Australia Cup. I think it's midweek next week. So yeah, back into it again.
No rest. I love it. Bring it on. And everyone, get out there. There's some great games out there. Big crowds expected, Chief. I love it. Local league, state leagues. There's some A leagues and Natawani. Go, you boys, the underdogs. See how they go.
All right, and just want to give our congratulations to Broadmeadow, who are the next team to qualify for the Australian Championship. They qualified as winners of the NPL Northern New South Wales competition. So they're going to go into Group A, which includes South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, and NPL Queensland Premiers, which would currently be Moreton City if the season was finished now. But a couple of games to go in Queensland, so we'll see what happens.
They only lost once this year, Chief, so look like they're a bit of a powerhouse up in the northern end of New South Wales.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about these teams coming to the Australian Championship too. Like, we do have those foundation clubs, but the others are coming through as winners and in some really good form. So it's going to be really exciting when that kicks off on October 10, the Australian Championship. All right, mate, you ready for Chiefs Challenge?
I love it. Hit me.
All right, we better touch on last week. So the question for last week was, how many World Cup winners have played in the A-League men's competition? We did have a few guesses on social media during the week, but I don't think anyone got it. So here's my list: Alessandro Del Piero, Janino, Romario, David Villa, and of course Juan Mata, who joined last season. So that's a total of 5 players who are World Cup winners who've played in the A-League men's competition. So
Uh,
did you get that one, mate?
No, I didn't, but I had the Italian Stallion at number one. So
You got one. You got one.
I wouldn't. I can't remember. Let's be honest, Juninho. I can't remember him, but I do know Mata. I do know Villa, and obviously Romero. Yeah, I must have missed that one, but yeah, Del Piero, the standout there, Chief. What do you think?
Yeah, Del Piero, he was the glamour, wasn't he? I mean, Juninho, short stint with Sydney FC, I believe. Romario, pretty unflattering time at Adelaide. David Villa, I think only played 4 games for Melbourne City, and Juan Mata didn't have the biggest influence on the Wanderers. Potentially coming back next season, we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, Del Piero definitely the biggest impact.
Yeah. All right, Chief. What do you got this week?
All right, this week we're going back to players, and on the theme of the Women's Asian Cup draw, we're talking about one of our former Matildas. So this player, born on the 20th of February 1980, was a member of the squad who lifted the Women's Asian Cup in 2010, had 86 caps for the Matildas. She was inducted into the Football Federation of Victoria Hall of Fame in 2015, and she was named for the Australian women's national soccer team, the Matildas, training squad in 1997 as a midfielder, but made her debut as a goalkeeper for them in September 2002. Versatility.
Yes, and was a star, Chief. I reckon I've got this one, but we'll say,
Oh, got
yep,
it.
all over it. Yes, I watched a bit of her last night actually when I was watching show on Optus before it closed down. Yep, and that's why it sticks in my mind. I've got no
Oh,
doubt on this one.
man. How about that? Just got it
Yep,
off the bat.
yep, straight off the bat. Thanks to Optus on the July 31st.
All right, let's head overseas, mate. There's heaps of players in action overseas, so let's get through them. Joe Gauci was an unused sub. They're playing over in the US at the moment. They played against St. Louis City for a 2-1 win. Jake Gerberdreich on the other side of the pitch was an unused sub for St. Louis. We then had 19 minutes off the bench in Villa's 2-2 draw with Nashville, and Patrick Yazbek played the second half for Nashville. Now, I've got a question for you, Mopper. You told us a few weeks back that he had a hip injury and was out for 2
I
months.
know, I know. Hey, mate, those physios must be working overtime. I've got to watch Who's Reporting What. That's what
Actually, I've got a
I was
I've
just
got a
going to
dodgy
ask you.
I've got a dodgy hip at the moment. I might
Oh,
duck over to
well,
Birmingham and see what they could do for me.
well, I tell you what, Joe Gauci, I am super stoked that you've made that on your notes because yeah, I thought he was out in the injury wilderness for 3 months, but to see him back already before the Premier League, and I know Villa's just signed a keeper, but yeah, it'd be interesting times. We talked about him whether he'd be a backup or go out on loan. So great to see him back, much needed. So good to see he's fit.
Yep. Awesome news to see him back. Over at Sunderland, Nectar Triantis, again, not included in the match day squad versus Hull. Saw a report that Sunderland are yet to decide if he's in their plans. It's a really, we've spoken about, I think, Triantis just about every week, but if he's not included in that squad for the Premier League, he kind of gets put on the outer and he just needs to find a move. So I think he needs to know either way if he's in Sunderland's plans and he's going to try and push for their first team or
Yeah.
we've got
Well,
to
I
move.
think Hibbs put in an inquiry on him in Scotland, Chief. So what's this
Okay.
news coming up? All right. So watch Hibbs. A few Australians there already.
All right. In Blackburn, Lewis Miller is rumoured to be signing with Rovers. We spoke last week about him being linked to a few championship clubs, but it looks as though Blackburn Rovers will get him. So yeah, that's going to make it 18 players in the championship across 11 clubs. I think that is now. So
Yep.
yeah, another one.
Love it.
And then in Watford, Nestor Irankunda got 20 minutes off the bench in their 1-0 friendly win over Deportivo La Coruña. Saw some reports, some comments from a few Watford fans saying they were really impressed with him. So, yeah, good signs for Irankunda to get some game time in the leagues. I think they won't have anything now
No,
until
they're away to
their
Charlton.
opener.
Yep, they're away to Charlton 9th of August, Chief. So yeah, hopefully he's fit enough, but maybe he might be off the bench in that game. We'll see how he
I think
goes.
I think likely to come off the bench.
Yep.
So, but look, he's used to that and used to having that impact. So we'll see how he goes.
But for
Um,
Australian football fans, Chief, it's on at 9:30, so nice and early. So yeah, 9:30 p.m.
yeah, awesome. Awesome. There's a few games, isn't there? 9:30. So
Yep.
hopefully it's the televised one. So we'll see. All right, over at Pompey, they had a 0 draw with Hubbin and Waterloo, who are from the Premier Division South. Jacob Farrell played 59 minutes and Hayden Matthews 65 minutes. No Segacic or Waddingham in that squad. It looked like it was more fringe players and younger players for that one. But then just overnight, Waddingham got 90 minutes and a goal in a 1-0 win over PEC's Wall, and Segacic also played the 90 minutes. Hayden Matthews got 2 minutes off the bench, and Jacob Farrell was unused. So I think that seems to suggest that Waddingham and Segacic in line to start, if not be on the bench, and maybe Hayden Matthews and Farrell more on the fringe to start the season anyway.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. So if you want to go on our thoughts on that one, we did a little bit of deep dive on the Portsmouth squad. So yeah, let us know what you think, whether they will start at Pompey next week. But as I said, we went through the squad up front there, so it'll be very interesting. But great to see Wellingham score off across this morning and get a 1-0 win. That'll do his confidence water good.
Yeah, and Colby Bishop, actually, who you mentioned last week, there's rumours that he's off to Charlton. So,
Oh wow, that
yeah,
opens up massive. Yeah.
yeah, if he does go, yeah, that's good news for our strikers at Portsmouth.
Yep, 100%. They play Oxford away on Sunday at midnight for those late owls.
All right, QPR, all of our Aussies start on the bench in their 0-0 draw with Brentford overnight. So Jalen Pearman and Keely Addison got 35 minutes off the bench, and Daniel Benny got 19. So again, that's an interesting one to see how they're going to line up QPR next weekend. So we'll see.
Yep, they're at home to Preston on Sunday night as well at midnight.
Coventry, Rafael Borges Rodriguez, he had 17 minutes in a 1-1 draw with Real Betis. Saw some Coventry fans thinking he'll be close to the squad to start the season, so that's a good sign. And then overnight, he came on late to set up Coventry's second goal. The fans were probably even more positive about him this time, raving about him, his performance, and particularly the delivery for the goal. I wasn't able to find a video of it to see, but yeah, they were pretty pleased with what he was doing. So they had a 2-2 draw with St. Pauli, and Connor Metcalf for St. Pauli got 28 minutes off the bench, but Jackson Irvine's still out with injury.
We wish him well, Jackson. What else you got over in Wigan, Chief?
Yeah, Tyrese Francois, who's someone who's kind of I like to keep a close eye on. He was on the books of Fulham for lots and lots of years, and I was hoping he'd push through. He went to Wigan last season, didn't really have much of an impact, but it was good to see him get some game time. So 60 minutes he got against Tranmere Rovers, and then a full game in their win over Northampton Town overnight, which was very pleasing to see for him. And then Millwall, 90 minutes for Masalongo in their 6-2 friendly win over Sutton United. And then just to wrap up, England, we've got a couple more. So Jake Holman, who left MacArthur Bulls, he signed a 2-year contract with Walsall with an option for a third year. I thought he might go a bit higher level, Jake Holman, but potentially just wants to get settled in over in England and then work his way up the leagues. But you can only go where the offers are, I suppose. Full game for Gethin Jones for MK Dons in their 0-0 draw against Oldham. And then for Plymouth Argyle, Caleb Watts, he scored a nice goal, but unfortunately they lost to 3-1 to Barnsley. Some absolutely calamitous defence for Plymouth Argyle to concede the goals that Barnsley scored. But Watts scored a nice goal, and he also had a couple that were nicely saved by the keeper as well. So he's looking pretty good with his move since he's gone from Exeter City.
And Chief, Scotland, 14 players and the league kicking off. Talk us through what's happening in Scotland. It's going to be a huge year for the boys over there.
Yeah, well, let's first touch on, because a lot of them were in action in those European qualifiers the back end of last week as well. So Zach Sapsford, he set up the goal in the 1-0 win over Eunice Strassen. Of course, he was the one who scored the goal in the first leg, so 2-0 on aggregate for him. So yeah, it was a floated free kick for the second. So yeah, he had a massive influence over that tie. I know a lot of Dundee United fans were hoping that they would get through a lot more comfortably against the team from Luxembourg, but yeah, they got the job done. So they're through to the next round of the Europa Conference League competition. Unfortunately, Our Aussies at heaps, they lost in a heartbreaker to Midland with Jack Iredale and Martin Boyle both starting. Lewis Miller missed through injury, but as mentioned before, he might be off anyway. So heaps will now drop down into the Europa Conference League qualifiers, and they'll play Partizan Belgrade. So they kind of get that second chance to keep going in Europe. But it's good to see some of those boys in action.
Yeah, at least they drop down, Chief, and hopefully they can. Oh, Patrizia and Belgrade though, they're pretty strong as well, so they're going to have their work cut out. The Jizzers went all the way against Hibs. They were unlucky, but hopefully they can get through in the conference and join a few other Aussies that are heading in that same direction. What's
Yep.
happening at Livingston, my man? Have a 2-2 draw with Cormac. What have you got there?
2-2 draw with Kilmarnock, the first game in the Scottish Premiership after being promoted. So Ryan McGowan got a full game. Teddy Youngie, who was linked away in the off season, he wasn't in the match day squad, so not sure what's happened. He was one of their better players last season, so I wouldn't think that he would be out of the squad completely for no reason. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. And then our guys at Motherwell, so Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, he got 79 minutes in the 1-1 draw with Rangers. I did watch the highlights of this one. He had a close range shot saved, and also put a tough header over the bar. He was kind of leaning back a bit too much. And then his teammate Johnny Katrumbis also started and played 90 minutes
Geez,
for
they
Motherwell.
gave the Rangers fans, Chief, 1-1 draw. Jeez, Rangers already under pressure with that result. Well done to the boys for Motherwell, getting a great result over there and upsetting a lot of Glasgow Rangers fans.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to afford to drop too many points this season, are
No, definitely not. Celtic must be clapping their hands.
they?
All right, let's go to Europe, Chief, in Belgium. Ryan Teague, a lot of talks over his move this year. How'd he go?
Yeah, but he only got 5 minutes off the bench in the 2-1 win over Club Rouge. We spoke about him last week as well, needing to work his way into those minutes. And yeah, I did actually see a fan during the week saying that they were surprised that they picked up T because their central midfield is pretty strong. But yeah, just shows that he's just going to have to work his way into that team and get some minutes if he wants to still be in those Socceroos calculations.
Massive win
Um,
over Bruges, though. That's a great result for the side.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, plenty of scenes after the game too,
yeah.
but yeah, big
Oh,
club to knock off.
definitely. Italy,
Um,
Parma Chief,
yeah,
Serrati.
Ali Ciccardi, yeah, it started against Mallorca in their 1-1 friendly draw, so they haven't quite kicked off their season. In some good news in the Netherlands, Aiden Hrusic has signed for Heracles on a 1-year deal, so good for him after the torrid time that he had in Italy last year for him to find a new club.
We're
And yeah,
waiting for this one. Yeah, this could be a gem that we've hopefully can respark it his form because I think Chief. I don't know what Popper's thinking, but geez, I'd love to see him one of the friendlies against New Zealand, Canada, or America just to test him out. He was in Popper's thoughts and he did play for Popper, so we'll see what happens.
mate, when he's on, he's one of our best because he just offers something that not many others can offer. His ability to hold the ball and drive forward and pick a pass and can score a goal as well. Yeah, he just offers something a lot different to a lot of our players in those similar positions.
Good move though, Chief. What do you reckon? In
Yeah,
Holland,
look,
I think that'd suit his football.
I think so too. Look, he's coming from a pretty low base, being relegated from Surrey B at his previous club. So I think that suits him, and I think he just needs some game time. But I think, as you mentioned before about Netherlands, it's a good level.
Yeah,
When you were talking
definitely.
about Geordie Boss, like that kind of level, good technical football, but not at too high a standard. And yeah, I think he'll be suited to that one.
And Max Ballard, Chief, this is a player I want to see more of in the Socceroos. A full game for Breda in a 2-0 loss against Norwich. I'm a big fan of Max Ballard. Hopefully, he gets some, good season on the belt because I think Popper should be looking at him. I think he's another technically gifted midfielder.
Yeah, he has been called up to a few squads. I can't remember off the top of my head whether it was under Arnold or Popovic, but he's certainly been in and around the mix before, but hasn't actually been capped. So yeah, I would like to see that too. We've spoken before about those 6 spots being pretty open, and yeah, he would be one that's well suited. He's a machine over there at Breda. He just plays week in week out, mostly 90 minutes, 20 minutes under his belt.
Yep. I love it. Good luck to him this season. I hope he has a cracker because I want to see him with the Socceroos starting. I think he'll make a massive difference holding the ball and transitioning through the lines there. I think he's a great player to watch in the next 12 months. All right,
Yep.
Chief. One of our favourites that we've been talking about a lot. Talk about Austria Vienna. They got knocked out of the cup, Chief, but they're through the next round in Europa Conference. What's the breakdown on Noah Bodic?
Yeah, the Austrian Cup loss was just after we recorded last week, so a bit of old news, but yeah, they lost 3-2 to Wolfsburg to get knocked out of the Austrian Cup. Not sure how much they that worried about that one, but yeah, more importantly, a 5-0 defeat of Sperry in the Europa Conference League qualification got them through the next round. Bodish did miss a few chances, but yeah, good to see him start and then to kind of get them through. So yeah, good to see for him.
And Hartberg Chief Jed Drew plays second half as Hartberg lose their season opener 4-2 against WSG Tirol. And obviously in Hungary, we go over to Hungary. You want to report on that one?
Ferenc Varos for Azani. Sorry, let me
Unused
just
sub.
again. Yeah, so it was an unused sub in their 3-0 league win overnight. So that's the first time we've seen him in a match day squad. But good to see he's kind of getting closer to potentially some minutes at Ferencváros. But as we said with Ryan T, it's not going to be a walk in the park to get these minutes. He's really going to have to earn his spot over there, which hopefully he can do. Let's jump up a bit further north to Norway. So also in the Europa Conference League, Viking, they had a thumping 12-3 win on aggregate over Copa. Our Aussie boys there still long-term injuries, so Nick D'Agostino and Gianni Stensness. So they have been out quite a while, so hopefully they're back playing soon. Over in Portugal, Anthony Carter got 11 minutes off the bench for Santa Clara. They got through their Europa Conference League qualifying as well, so they're through the next round. And then also Hajduk Split, so they needed extra time to get through in their Europa Conference League qualifying, but they won 3-2 on aggregate with Frank Karacic and Anthony Kalik both starting. So heaps of Aussies in action over in Europe, mate.
And the World Cup host next year in the USA, talk us through Roll Salt Lake. Lachlan Brook leaves by mutual consent. And
We should say
Raf,
co-host.
oh yeah, sorry mate. Well, yeah, co-host. Sorry, Mexico and Canada. I do apologise, but co-host USA, Roll Salt Lake. Sorry, Lachlan Brook. Who left by mutual consent. Where's he off to? Any news?
Well, rumors are that he's going to Auckland FC, which would be a pretty good pickup for Auckland.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's been over there at Real Salt Lake a couple of years now, but limited game time, so probably the best move for him in his football career. I think he's still like 24 or so plenty of time to keep developing and potentially going to the A-League Premiers. So his now former teammate, Arieth Piol, he's been getting just a handful of minutes. So he came on in the last minute in their Leagues Cup 2-2 draw, which they won 3-1 on penalties. And then he got 11 minutes off the bench this morning. They drew 2-2 again, but this time they lost on penalties in the Leagues Cup that they're currently competing in at the moment. So, and then Aidan O'Neill, he played 60 minutes in the 3-0 loss to Mexican side Puebla in the Leagues Cup as well. So, yeah, there's a bit going on in the US at the moment with, this Leagues Cup. They're kind of playing Mexican sides and it's all outside the MLS, but yeah, still a lot of competitive football.
And in Asia, Korea, 32 minutes for John Iredale in Seoul E. Lans, 2-0 win over Suwon Blue Wings. They used to be a good side. And a start in their 0-0 draw with Incheon United. In China,
it shows you how far Suwon have fallen because that's the second division in Korea. So
wow. Yeah.
they've had a big drop off Suwon.
Good point. And Kevin Muscat, Shanghai Port, win 4-2 and move to second in China, 4 points behind with 11 games to go. So, geez, I hope they've got a shot at playing Shanghai. I'll have to look at the fixture list to see whether they can get closer because it's a bit top heavy at the top end and the lower teams aren't as strong.
Well, it went down to the wire between those two last season as well. So developing not just a local rivalry, but a good competitive rivalry as well.
Definitely. We wish him well. It would be great if he got back to back. That'd be sensational for an Aussie coach.
Well,
Young
what's
Matilda.
next for him? What's next for him, do you reckon? Maybe
Um,
Rangers if
I,
they're gonna keep
I,
going like they are.
well, can I be honest? I'm surprised Rangers didn't get him this year. I know they've gone Russell Martin, but yeah, geez, new ownership there though, so only time will tell. But yeah, I still think Rangers is a likely destination for his next step. And I look, I can't see anyone knocking off Celtic this year. They're just too good. And Rangers already stumbling at the first game. The signs there it's going to take time. Although Rangers did sign Mikey Moore, one of my favourite players.
Yeah.
But yes, so we'll see. Watch this space. But Kevin Muscat, your thoughts? Scottish League or hey English Championship maybe, would a Premier League be out there, or what do you think?
I think too big a jump. I don't think we look at the scrutiny that Ange went through, firstly joining Celtic and then coming over to the Premier League. I think it would be a bit of a bridge too far for Muskie to jump straight into the Premier League. But Scottish Premiership definitely. He's obviously got history at Rangers, and he's got history at a few clubs in the lower leagues in England as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in one of those leagues.
Well, Chief, I spoke too soon because the top of the table clash is actually this Saturday, 9th of August, between Shanghai Port and Shanghai Shenru. That's the 9th of August at 9:35, top of the table clash. So there'll be 10 to go after that game.
Ooh, interesting.
Big one this Saturday. All right, let's go to Young Matilda's update. Obviously, we've seen the under 23s have their first games in the Women's Championship Serenity Cup. They announced the squad under 23s. A lot of emerging players coming through. A few sprinkled with a few Matildas that have played in the last friendlies. Head coach Joe Pasalides obviously is an assistant to Joe. Joe has named a strong squad, including Combank Matildas, debutantes Briley Henry, Isabel Gomez, and Chloe Lincoln. Look, the Peace Cup, I think, will just give them a little bit exposure. I think they should win that game. There's not very many strong sides in there. But we open their campaign this Thursday, as we said, at Myanmar at 4:30 p.m. local time before taking on the Philippines, who are our Asia Cup tournaments where the Matildas senior side are up against, and rounding up the group stage, Timor-Leste on the 13th of August. So they've got 3 games in quick concession, but I think they should be too strong for the sides there. What are your thoughts on the 23s, Chief?
Oh, look, no really strong thoughts. I'm just really pleased to see these players playing. As you mentioned there, good to see some of those players like Henry and Gomez and Lincoln did get that taste for the Matildas full team not that long ago in those friendly games to then show their worth for the under 23. So yeah, good. There's no real kind of tournament as far as I'm aware for the 23s. I think it's just more of a development age group, but good to see them coming together and hopefully obviously Montemurro is going to have a bit of a close eye on this group as well, and something you could potentially look at as he starts to build to that Asian Cup.
Yeah, it's a lot of local players, obviously, because domestically, a lot of the Matildas are still playing around Europe, and that the competition's already started in America. So it's good to see a lot of local based players there. So good luck to the girls, and they'll also be over in Asia with the under 20s, as we reported before, with the injury to Grace that we spoke about, and Amelia Kinsella from Queensland Academy Sport also replaces Isabella Hoyer. So don't know the reason why she's been left out. I couldn't find anything on that one, but well done to Amelia Kinsella from the Queensland Academy of Sport. They've got Tajikistan this Wednesday night, Thursday Australian time at 10 p.m. And hopefully this is their important tournament for the girls because obviously we need to be up there to qualify for the Asia Cup. And as we move on to the 16s, as reported earlier, they announced their under 16 squad announcement and they're in training. They've got a tournament later on in the month in August, so all happening for all 3 young Matildas teams. Quote from Junior Matildas head coach Michael Cooper: "The Asian Under 16 Championship 2025 is the first crucial step in preparing the girls for the upcoming Under 17 Women's Asia Cup in 2026. And the FIFA Under-17s Women's World Cup, which is also in 2026. It'll help us identify the strengths of the group and how to best support them as we enter other international competitions. So a great stepping stone for the 16s there. They obviously kick off against Thailand on the 21st of August on Thursday, followed by Singapore on the 23rd of August. So all happening there for the girls, young girls of the Matildas, under 23s, 20s, and 16s. Some very exciting time for the girls in August.
Yeah, we haven't done the best at these underage tournaments before, so I think as per those quotes you just read out, it's really important that we start to qualify for these Asian Cups, and then usually with those groups they double as the qualifier for the World Cup. So we just want these young women to be given that stage so they can, showcase what they can do, and potentially get these moves overseas to some bigger clubs. They just kind of deserve that platform. So yeah, I think on the back of the emerging Matildas program into now these 16s, 20s, and 23s getting game time, and then the Asian Cup draw, just really exciting times for women's football in Australia at the moment.
If you look at the matches they've played in the last 12 months, there's not much caliber. So obviously this is a big step for Asia. So, and I know Australian Football Australia, obviously looking at getting more high caliber opposition going forward, because we definitely need to be tested at a higher level at a younger age. And hopefully these Asian Cup qualifications and games will obviously help us build. But I still think we need to look a bit deeper into getting across to Europe with these young girls to expose them a bit earlier on in their careers and get them some exposure. But anyway, we wish them well in all three competitions in August. I think they'll have some crackers and we'll be cheering them home for some more victories and some good football. All right, Chief, that's a wrap on the Matildas junior teams. What else have we got for tonight?
Oh, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. There's a fair few Aussies in action overnight. Probably my pick of the games is Grazer AK versus Austria Vienna. So potentially Jacob Italiano up against Noah Bodic. Well, we like to see these all Aussie clashes now that we've got so many players playing over in Europe, in particular. So yeah, that could be an exciting one for those two to go head to head in Austria.
Yeah, we'll have lots more to report next week and absolute full wrap on Australian football and Aussies abroad. There's always lots happening, isn't there? So plenty to watch and see. That most competitions are starting now, and we move closer to obviously the English Premier League, Chief. Which I want to ask you, obviously, of the couple of the younger players that are over in the English Premier League, will they see some football this year for their teams? What about Stephen Hall in Brighton,
Well,
an Australian young goalkeeper?
he was the under 20s keeper for the Asian Cup win. So, look, potentially he'd be looking to get a bit of game time. I'd say he's unlikely to crack it in their first team, but hopefully he can push into their Premier League 2 team, get some game time. Last time I saw him in a lineup, he was on the bench for their Premier League 2 team. So, probably a couple of steps away from the first team at the moment.
And what about the famous Cahill named Chief? Shay Cahill, Notts Forest, 20 years of age now, midfielder. Was on the Everton's books for 4 years, joined Notts Forest last year. Will we see Shay Cahill in the Notts Forest first team?
No. I saw a bit of him play at Brisbane Roar this season. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to have the same career as his father. So yeah, he might be on the books there, but I don't see him cracking that Notts Forest team, even with some of the players that they've had to let go in the off season.
Okay, Chief, I'm trying to up the spike for some potential Aussie talent. What about young Mr. Overy at Man U? We did talk about him a couple of weeks ago. Is he a chance to break in Dameron's squad?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I think he could get a crack. I know he's young, but I think Amarin's a type that would give some of these players an opportunity. If not in the Premier League, potentially in a League Cup or early FA Cup round. But he's definitely one I can see being given a run. I mentioned last week he suits Amarin's system, and I think I could see him getting a crack at some point in the season, potentially as things start to unravel at Manchester United.
Could be a dry season for the Aussies in the Premier League, Chief. I don't see any late transfer moves to anyone to the Premier League, so we'll have to watch the Scottish Premier League and the Championship for all the young rising talent. I just wanted to say a shout out too to Graham Arnold, who obviously is in Group B of the playoff draw for the World Cup qualifiers that are coming up soon. They've got Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and Iraq, which is Arnold's side that he now coaches. So we wish him well, obviously, in those playoffs that come up later this year. All right, Chief.
Don't forget Joe Gauci in the Premier League. And
well, sorry, mate. I was talking about the young players up and coming.
Oh, Joe's not young at 25. Too old now, is he?
He's too old now, mate. He needs to be playing.
What about Nectar Triandis at 21? Is that too old?
No, we'll go with him. I still can't believe Joe Gauci's back. I don't know where. I'm gonna have to read better information on that one. You're all over me on that.
Check your sources, mate. Check your sources.
I know. Cut me off now.
All right. Thanks everyone for your time this evening. We enjoyed putting this podcast together. We hope you enjoyed it as well. We hope you enjoy all your football during the week. We'll be back with you next week. In the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best, everyone, and good luck to all the teams and players that are playing overnight and this week. Have a good week.